Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Everyone can be seated. Mrs. Jury, good morning. How's everyone doing this morning? How are your accommodations? Food still digestible?
Yes.
Deputies treating you well?
Yes.
Good. Thank you for your patience this morning. Sergeant Dennis Evans, Jr. You can come forward, please, sir. Come up to where Deputy Smith is. Let him hold that folder for you for a second. So new dates, I got to swear you in again.
Yes, sir.
Put your left hand on the Bible. Raise your right hand, please, sir. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you will give in this case be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. You have the longest back. Have a seat here, please, sir, and watch yourself, please. Ladies and gentlemen, we finished yesterday. The state had submitted Sergeant Evans for cross-examination, and Mr. John Keith Perry, you may proceed.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Sergeant Evans. Yesterday, I had a chance to do a brief board diary, and I just asked you a question about, I think, where you were working or how long you had worked. And I forget the exact question, but okay. I'm going to ask it again in a different way. You work for the Memphis Police Department.
Yes,
correct?
sir, I do.
And you have worked for the Memphis Police Department for, I think, the last 20 years at least?
Yes, sir.
What year did you first get hired with MPD?
July of 2001.
And were you hired as a patrolman or what?
Yes, sir. I was hired as a patrolman.
And at some point, you shifted focus to digital forensics.
Yes, sir.
At what point was that?
So actually, about 2005 or 6, I got put on what at that point was considered called the CAT unit.
Mm-hmm.
From the CAT unit, I actually went to the PSN, which is Project Safe Neighborhoods. That was about 2007, and that's when I started doing cell phone stuff. Started looking at actual records, working wiretaps. So at that point is when I actually started analyzing call detail records. And so from there, it just transitioned into wiretapping from 2008 to about 2010 or 11. As far as phones themselves, we didn't start doing that until about 2015 or 16 when we opened up the original digital forensics unit at our real-time crime center.
And the CAT unit, just for the sake of it, is that an acronym?
Yes, sir.
What's
It's
that?
Criminal Apprehension Team.
All right. And you have, I think, prior to being a part of digital forensics, you testified, correct?
Yes, sir, I did.
And you would testify in court, usually on behalf of law enforcement, right?
Yes, sir.
And since then, you ended up being certified by Shelby, right?
Yes, sir.
And I think according to your testimony yesterday, now do you have the highest certification that you can have with Shelby?
No, sir, I don't. They have multiple levels.
Right. I think they have 4 levels, or is it 2 or 3?
I'd have to go back and look. I know we're certified. It's called CCO, which is a certified operator, and CCPA, which is the physical analyzer. So the operator allows you to extract the data, and then the analyzer allows you or teaches you how to analyze what was extracted.
And you learned how to extract the data.
Both.
Initially,
yes,
right.
Yes, sir.
And from that, you then learned the analysis portion.
Yes,
correct?
sir. It's a 1-week course.
All right. So in order to do what you testified about yesterday from an expert standpoint, the certification of it would be pretty much at week course.
Yes,
correct?
sir.
All right. So for that 1 week, did they go through testifying and things like that? How do you come to court and address the jury? Did they do any of that?
They just talk about how you present the findings
To the jury.
to other law enforcement and to the DA's office.
Right. And you did that course back during 2010, 2008, when?
No, sir. I didn't do that course until 2016.
All right. So at the time that this would have been going on, you were not certified as a digital analyst, cell phone analyst, back in 2010, right?
Yes, sir.
And you said that you went through the course in 2016, which would have been around the time that Operation Rebound started.
Yes, sir.
And at the time that Operation Rebound started, you went through that course. Did they give you a certificate or anything along those lines?
They did.
And you have that certification. And since that time, which would have been approximately 6 years, more or less, give or take, you've testified how many times for defense?
For the defense?
Yes.
None.
All right. And how many times have you testified for the Memphis Police Department or for the DA's office?
I don't know the exact number. It would have to be, it's a handful of times.
Okay. When you say a handful, maybe 20, you think?
I would think more like 5 to 10.
5 to 10 times you've testified as an expert in court regarding the digital analysis, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you've had this file for how long?
Which file you're referring to?
Operation Rebound, the Lorenzen Wright murder case. How long have you had that file?
Since 2016 or 17 when we started it.
All right. And I received the report that the jury received on what day? Well, that's a bad question. You wouldn't know when I received it. What day did you give it to Mr. Hagerman?
2 days ago. He asked me for it.
All right, 2 days ago on this report that you were generating and that you worked on for over 6 years, 5 years, 6 years.
No, sir. I had various obligations with Operation Rebound.
Understand that. But I'm
as
talking
far as
about
what's on the screen, yes, sir. They asked me to put together a presentation of an overview of the call records, an overview of the cell phone analysis, and an overview. They asked me to add in the Facebook stuff and what's in the report.
Right, and it's a good PowerPoint, but it was prepared and finalized 2 days ago.
Yes, sir.
You did the analysis, did you? I mean, you provided, I guess, information regarding the analysis. Now, you don't go out on behalf of Verizon or AT&T or C-Spire and calibrate these machines or calibrate any of these mechanisms, correct?
No, sir.
And in fact, did you ever at any point do what's called peer review of your analysis in your report? Did you get anybody outside of the Memphis Police Department to look at your work and say this analysis is correct, or this analysis is good, or this analysis is flawed? Did you have a peer review person?
No, sir.
Bullet Lady came in yesterday and she showed how the bullets work and how the mechanisms work. Did you have any sort of a model regarding how these cell towers work to show the jury? A cell tower that you were describing yesterday, I think throughout the city, how many cell towers would you say that there are?
Oh, there are hundreds.
All right. And there are hundreds throughout the city, right?
Yes, sir.
And you did give, I think you talked about the face of the tower going this way and the face of the tower, possibly some facing east, some facing north, etc., right?
Yes, sir.
Now, you have never had a job with AT&T, Verizon, or anything like that that matches longitudes, latitudes, that goes into the inner workings of those towers, though, right?
No, sir, I have not.
Now, you said that you've testified a handful of times, and you put that at around 6.
As far as
More or
for
less.
two different things. So if you're asking about cell phone records, or
Yes.
you're asking about cell phone exams and dumps. They're two different avenues.
Testifying similar to what you testified to as an expert yesterday with the court tendered you asked.
Yes, sir. It'd be only a handful of 5 or 6. We haven't had a lot of trials in the last 2 years.
I got you. And in this particular case, you spoke about your Cellbrite certification. Have you had any Cellbrite certification renewal courses within the last 5 or 6 years?
Yes, sir. I actually just got renewed this past year.
All right. And that renewal process from that week-long course is approximately how long?
It's another 4 to 6 hour class that they teach online, and then we take a test.
Okay. So you read it online and you have to answer questions, though, right?
Yes, sir.
Back in 2010, at the beginning of this particular case, do you remember what unit you would have been in back in July of 2010?
I was assigned to the undercover unit.
And so you would not have been responsible for gathering certain reports regarding certain towers.
No, sir. Not on this case.
All right. And during that same time frame, you would not have, of course, been responsible for seeing whether or not there were any cell tower activity around the apartment that Mr. Wright had in Atlanta. Or not the apartment, I'm sorry, the townhouse that Mr. Wright had in Atlanta.
In 2010?
Yes.
No, sir.
And through the report, sometimes it's referred to as an apartment, but it seems like more like a townhouse. And when I say a townhouse, you know what I'm referring to.
Yes, sir, I do.
From the photos and everything. But you
I
didn't
haven't seen those photos, but I know the townhouse.
You didn't gather any of those photos or anything like that?
Oh, no, sir.
Did you go to Atlanta?
No, sir.
All right. You focused on a 2-day or 3-day window as far as the actual tower activity, correct?
Yes, sir.
And do you remember exactly what those couple of days would have been as far as the tower activity?
For this report, yes, sir, it was July 18th and 19th, and then moving forward to the 20th, 21st of
Now,
2010.
At the time that the case would have taken place, it would have been possible to gather activity farther back for a window of time, maybe a month this way and a month the other way, correct?
Are you referring to call detail records?
Yes.
Yes, sir, at the time.
Now you got the call detail records from Mr. Turner, right?
Yes, sir.
Or from his carrier, C-Spire.
Yes, sir.
You also got the AT&T records regarding Ms. Wright, correct?
Yes.
You also got records regarding Edna J, correct?
Yes, sir. These records were provided to me.
Did you ask for, after reviewing the records at any point, to get the records of a Merle Hampton?
No, sir, I was not.
And you saw in one sector of your report the name Merle Hampton appears, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, and I know that you have never worked for a cell phone company specifically. You worked mostly with the MPD. We look like we might be the same age. You might be younger. So I'm assuming the majority of your adult work life has been with the MPD, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, it has.
And when you described the phone mechanism and how it works as it relates to cell towers, you didn't explain, I don't think from what I was writing, I was trying to write fast, you didn't explain how the actual cell phone mechanism works.
No, sir, we didn't go into that detail.
All right. If a person has a phone, what you can see on the outside of the phone, that doesn't have anything to do with the information that the tower is receiving or bouncing one way or the other, correct?
But you're asking on the outside of the phone?
On the outside of the phone. The shell casing, I guess we'll start with.
No, sir, it doesn't.
All right. Now, once you get on the inside of the phone, there are some mechanisms that I think the cell tower is reading, correct?
It's reading an antenna? Yes, sir.
What is the antenna reading coming from the actual phone? What sends the data to the phone? I mean, to the tower.
So the tower itself is sending out the radio wave. The radio wave is connected to the antenna and it's going back. So it's connecting that way.
And it's only the antenna, right? Like a chip wouldn't change that one way or other. If I switch chips with Mr. Hagerman, that doesn't, and I go down Poplar, that wouldn't change anything about what cell phone data from 901-496-666, that wouldn't change anything, would it, if he and I exchanged cell phone chips?
Are you saying chip or are you referring to the SIM card?
SIM card,
Okay.
or SIM chip, that was what I...
Okay, so a SIM card is what connects the cell phone to the actual carrier into that network. And yes, sir, if you were to change your SIM card out with Mr. Hagerman, and you got Mr. Hagerman's SIM card to put it in your phone, then your phone would then, once it connects to the tower, would show a different IMEI number, as we talked about yesterday. That's the serial number to the phones. It would show a different phone number. That would be the phone number that now you're using off that SIM card to connect to that network.
And if Mr. Hagerman has my SIM card or SIM chip, he drives to Batesville today, and his phone pings, whose phone number going to, let's just say mine is AT&T, and the number is 496-1111. Where would 496-1111 show on my record as pinging?
So you're saying that you've now given your SIM card to Mr. Hagerman, correct?
Yes, sir.
He is now driven to Batesville.
Yes, sir.
And connected and using, it's going to show up his phone, his IMEI number, and his call records will show that that number or that device was using that tower.
So it would show
the phone that he has with the SIM card in it connected to that tower.
right. So if somebody says, where is John Perry on St. Patrick's Day 2022, and Paul Hagerman is sitting at my favorite restaurant in Batesville, Mississippi, eating, would it show that John Perry is here, or would it show that John Perry is in Batesville eating at his favorite restaurant off the square?
If you've switched SIM cards,
Yes.
it's going to show that device it's down in Batesville, if the device is being used.
Now, yesterday when you were testifying about Jay's whereabouts on the night in question, you said that Jay was in Batesville and he's moving, right?
Yes, sir.
But you never said that Jay's phone was in Batesville, apparently moving to Sardis at some point or anything like that, right?
Well, we're referring to the device itself was connecting to towers that were in Batesville. Yes, sir.
Right. So, just for clarity's sake, you're not saying that you know where Jay Martin was on that night, right?
No, sir, I'm not.
And you're not saying that you know whether or not Jay Martin was in Batesville or was driving to Sardis or manipulating the phone with someone in Batesville or Sardis on that night.
Based on the records we have, all we can tell you is that the device was using towers that were in Batesville.
The device, right? And there's no way that you could testify about who used a payphone in Batesville, whether or not it's a friend, a girlfriend, or one of the guys or persons who was referred to as helping him throw this party were in Batesville.
No, sir, there's no way for us to know, for me to testify to that.
You didn't search Merle Hampton, right? The name.
No, sir.
Was Merle Hampton anywhere in the phone records that you saw?
For Mr. Turner?
Yes.
It was in there multiple times, yes, sir.
Right.
The name.
Right. Was there an irony to the fact that when Cheryl Wright would call, that it seemed that Merle Hampton would call? Did you notice that? You said yesterday there's 140 some odd calls between Cheryl and Billy Turner, right? You got
It's 186, yes, sir.
Right. Out of those 186, did you bother to number how many seemed to be more than that? You said 45 seconds. I guess it's actually, it could be up to a minute and 15 seconds, I think, right? That is nobody answering. Is that not true, depending on the mechanism and the call?
Yes, sir. The standard we use is anywhere between 45 seconds to a minute.
Right. And the majority of those were not anybody answering from Mr. Turner, correct?
We looked at the call records. Which ones are you referring to? I'm not sure which ones you're referring to.
May I approach John?
Yes, sir. Jeff Smith. Yes, sir.
All right.
Which ones are we?
All right. Let's start at the first page.
Okay.
The first page is July, I believe. Is it not?
Yes, sir. It starts with July 5th.
Now, you would have gathered these and sent these, I believe, to Mr. Hagerman, and he forwarded them to me.
Yes, sir. I was provided these, and then they were provided to him. Yes,
All
sir.
right. The very first call is a no subscriber, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then there's a call that's incoming, correct?
Yes, sir, there is.
Now, that 901-239-3322, do you know whose phone number that is?
The 239-3322 is Mr. Turner.
All right. And on that day, there appears to be a call. Do you see the duration?
Yes, sir, I do.
And how long is that duration?
43 seconds.
All right. And so that would be indicative that no answer, right?
Yes, sir. It could be no answer. It could be yes, sir.
And then there's an outgoing to the sheriff number of 901-552-6252, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And was that one answered?
It shows 28 seconds.
All right. And in fact, I got two calls that way that's not an answer, right?
Yes, sir. They're back to back.
And then another one that's no answer, correct?
It's only 29 seconds.
All right. And then if you go, let's go farther down that page.
Yes, sir.
You see Merle Hampton in calling again at 12:14:48.
Yes, sir, I do.
And that one seemed to be a 3-minute incoming call, correct?
That is correct.
Now, it doesn't tell you who other than the name Earl Hampton, but do you know what address that number corresponds to? Did you get any of that information?
You want the cell tower?
No. Just the address. Like when you pay your phone bill, there'll be an address connected to the phone sometimes.
For Mr. Turner?
No. For this Merle Hampton number.
No, sir. I did not research that.
Okay.
Let me stop you for 1 second. Did you ask questions as to what page you might be on? What you and Sergeant Evans is looking at, is that in Exhibit 70 or is that some other document?
These are the complete records for that month. And what I can do is at this time, I'll ask the board, These are records provided through discovery.
Yes, sir.
And if I can have the deputy approach you, and I'll ask him the predicate questions to ask him to be introducing the evidence. Unless Mr. Hagerman might stipulate
We
that.
have no objection.
It'll be, if I don't know what the number is.
This is exhibit number 71. And this is, sorry, what's?
So these are cell phone records. This is actually not the raw data. This is
Yes, sir.
This is the cell phone records for Mr. Turner, and these records were entered into one of our software programs called PinLink, and this is a printout from PinLink of the records from July 5th, 2010, with the last record being August 5th, 2010.
And
So-
these are cell phone records of Mr. Billy Turner, is that correct?
Yes, sir, they are.
For the records of exhibit number 71, a document described by Sergeant Evans, roughly, again, just guessing, about 25 pages or so. Cell phone records from July 5th, 2010 to August 5th, 2010. Billy Turner cell phone records, July 5 through August 5, 2010. I think everyone's trying to follow along with this, Deputy Smith.
Is there a way, and I guess we can take a pause, this is the only document like this that would need to be copied, but if you have, we can just copy it.
Hey, Sue, you don't mind sitting there for a moment? Call according to recess. I'm going to collect these copies. Got a copy machine. The copies real quickly. Should take about 3 minutes. Everyone can remain seated.
We'll stand as a recess.